Hello, my name is Debbie, Owlandgatorstitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 45. Today is Wednesday, December 14th, 2022. This is a video about cross stitch, and today is a special episode because I am going to be doing my 2022 WIP Parade. So I've got 55 active WIPs, and I'll be showing you all of them but one. So if you are here for the ride, I hope you enjoy it. And I know there's a lot of videos out there right now. A lot of people are doing some amazing Flossmasses and also a lot of other WIP parades in addition to the traditional Flosstube videos. But I thought it was time for me to do it because I am getting everything organized with my plans for 2023. So I thought this would be a great time to do it. I did a long planning video about 2 weeks ago, so I'm not going to get all into my plans except to just sort of tell you that when I go through each of my projects, what I intend to do is obviously show you where I am and tell you about it. But I'm also going to tell you my goal for the upcoming year. And I have deliberately chosen, I guess, aspirational. I thought about, do I want to try and make everything fit within 12 months? But I decided no, that I estimated this will be over 200,000 stitches, and I do about 180 to 200,000 stitches a year right now. Who knows what 2023 will bring. But so I know that I will not be able to complete this all in 2023. And as I said in my last video, I will do my next WIP Parade once I have reached all of my goals. So I am looking forward to that. I have written down each project on a little index card, and I am going, so that will help remind me what all the details are and also what my goals are. So I am just going to launch right into it. And before I do want to say that because I have so many projects, I am not going to talk about needle minders and bags with the exception of one project, simply because otherwise this video, which is already going to be long, will be even longer. Again, as I said, I have 55 projects. One of them I am not showing. It's actually my most recent start. It's a small, I'm going to a retreat in January, and they've asked us not to show the project on social media until after the retreat. So I am hoping to get that finished this month. And that way, when I do my next video in January, you'll be able to see the finished project after the retreat. The retreat is in early January. So with that, I am just going to launch in. And I'm also doing this in reverse chronological order so that the projects that I'm going to start with my most recent start and go backwards. And that way, towards the end, you get to see projects with more work on it as opposed to, projects that don't have that many stitches on them. I just thought that would be a fun way for me to do it, to show you a little bit more. So with that, I am going to go ahead and get started. And this is actually the project that I want to show the project bag, because this was a gift and I have not shown this one before. So I am doing, let me show the project first. In fact. So this is Haunted Mansion by Tiny Modernist. This originally was a Sal, I want to say in 2018, I can't remember. And I didn't purchase it then, but someone reached out to me and said they were doing a round robin and would I like to participate? And I thought that sounded like a lot of fun. And this is a really cute pattern. And so I said, sure, I'll jump on board. So we are stitching the frame of the house. We have until early February to do that. And then we're going to start mailing it around. And then there's 9 of us participating. So each of us will take a space, and 9 or 10 of us. So one of the rooms, and then the trees on the side, and then the motifs in the front. So one of the members of the round robin was very generous and made us all project bags. And that's what I want to show you. This is a absolutely gorgeous project bag. You can see that there's this is probably a better way to show it, witches and pumpkins and little ghosties and spider webs. So just a really cute fabric. And it has, for the closure, instead of having a zipper, it's got this little, probably should find a way to show you on camera, this little closure here. So you just, I can't do this holding this up. It does work, I promise. Holding it up, but you just put the loop around this and that brings it shut. It's a lovely made project bag. The inside fabric is just this sort of gray and black spooky fabric that goes really well with the rest of it. So thank you so much. I love the bag and I'm having a lot of fun with this. This is where I am. And so because I'm doing no new starts, I got a little bit late started on this. So I'm still building my house, but I was very happy I got that moon done. A lot of us were complaining about the moon. I'm going to say, so, and then someone said, hey, I'm buying fancy floss for, as opposed to doing it in DMC, which is what it's called for the rest of the pattern. I jumped on board. I bought a different brand. There's nothing wrong with the brand that I bought, but it was called Candy Corn, which meant it had all this white in it. And I realized I didn't want my moon to look like candy corn. So that's an error on my part. So I did fussy cut it. And normally I don't do that. With fancy floss, I let it, I might stitch in a certain direction in order to get the effect I want, but I'm not, cutting off because I don't like a certain color in it. But I had it. And I just kind of, I also didn't want a stripy moon. So I did sort of orange and yellow here. And that's sort of more or less, it's not following what is in the pattern, but it sort of gives the same effect. So I finished that moon. Now I've started working on the main roof, and then this is another turret that comes over here. So I do have quite a bit left to do on it, but it goes fairly quickly, especially since I've done the space between the shingles on the roof, which is the part that requires counting. And then like this is fill in, and then this is basically all straight lines. Few little bats here or there, and then going down, it's basically straight lines as well. So I sort of feel like maybe I'm not done with 50% of the stitching I need to do, but I've done most of the hard counting that I need to do. So I'm looking forward to pulling this out. And this is on an 18 count fabric. I don't quite know the name. It's an opalescent. I think it's absolutely gorgeous fabric. And it's from Live and Dye in LA. And if you're looking for her, she does have a Facebook group, and that's where you buy her fabrics. And then the floss here, also Candy Corn, is from there as well. All right. So that is project number 54. And I'm going to have to put all of these back into the project bags as I am talking, simply because if I don't, I just don't even think I'm not the neatest person, as you can sort of see back here with all my stuff. And if I don't start putting things away while I am talking to you, it will never get done. So, all right. So then my next project, I've already got everything out of order here, which is not good. So I'm going to come back to this one. My next project. I'm doing it in reverse chronological order. It's sort of chunked out a little bit. So the next few projects I'm showing are ones that in no new starts, either because I had a freebie start or I finished something and I was able to start a new thing in sort of similar size because I was doing the work your whips. And if you're not familiar with no new start / whip warriors, feel free to drop me a question below. But the next one is it's a small. Oh, and my goal on the other one, by the way, is just to keep up with the style. So this is from Sapphire Mountain Handcrafts. This is a horrible printout. You'll see I'm basically doing the call for colors, and you'll see that these don't match. This is quite a small one, and this is done by the woman who does the Stitching Book Club. So this is the special ingredient, and then it says, "Is love just kidding? It's cat hair." And I have 2 cats, and trust me, in my stitching, I have a lot of specialty fibers, and in my, cooking, I'd like to think I don't get cat hair in there, but cat hair goes everywhere, and my cat's a short hair cat, so I can't imagine life with a long hair cat. But anyhow, here is where this is. So this is basically just one that I started it, and I haven't done much since then. And this is sort of an 18 count Ada. I won this in a giveaway from Leslie. Fat Cat Flossing, I think is her name, her Flosstube channel. So as you can see, the pattern looked yellow, and this is red. It's a lot of reds and blues and browns. So this a lot of fun. And my goal on this is to finish it. It is so small. It will only take me a couple of sessions to actually finish it. It's probably only a couple of thousand stitches maximum in it. And a lot of it is sort of repetitive stitching. Okay. And then the next one I have is from Stitching Jules Designs. It's called 3 Dancers. This is the picture. And so Stitching Jules, Jules basically offered up on her channel. She said, if you are a Flosstuber who has under 1,000 subscribers, which is me, and she said, and you're interested in stitching one of her patterns, to reach out to her. And then her only condition was, I'll give it to you for free, but the pattern for free, but then please work on it and show it on your Flosstube. So it's a full coverage. we all know how much I love my full coverage. And so here's where I am now. And this is a relatively small pattern. It is, I think, total 26,000 stitches, which for a full coverage is quite small. I think it's my smallest full coverage I actually have going right now. And I'm just doing this on an 18 count Aida. I had this in my stash. It fit. So I was like, go for it. And this is already between 11 and 12% done. So that just shows, and this is sort of, if you made this like a rectangle there, that is 25% of the pattern. So it's a very quick stitch. It's lovely colors. I'm doing it on Pattern Keeper, so it flies. And basically what you're sort of seeing here, this is the sort of body of the outline, the body of the middle dancer. And this is actually the body of another dancer, and her head is somewhere up here. You can sort of see that a little bit. So this is the dancer in blue here. Yeah. So again, I'm really enjoying working on this, and my goal for next year is to finish this one. Again, you will see as I go through, I am not balanced. It's not like I want to put 1,000 stitches on everything. I'm not trying to do that. I have certain things that I want to achieve and finishes, and that's what I'm, or some things are a little bit harder for me to work on, and so I need to go slowly, and I'm not going to push myself to get as much done as I possibly can on them. All right, so the next piece I have to show you is Grand Library. I think many of you are familiar with this. This is the supersized max color version. So it is by far my largest WIP at about 750,000 stitches. So this is what I consider a lifetime work. So this one, I'm enjoying the process of stitching, but I also want to make some progress on it. I deliberately started down in the lower right-hand corner because sort of these are the areas that I like the most. And it's not that I don't like the other areas, but sort of what I read and romance. And then of course, like just the comfy scene of being near a fire with your little pet sleeping there. If you can see that very well. That is just, those are like, if I'm not going to be able to finish this in my lifetime, I at least want to be able to work on the parts that I want to see come to life. So it's a very large piece. So I think it takes about a little over 7,000 stitches to get even to 1%. And I am not at 1% yet because this was a start this year. And so I think I started middle September, and then I got COVID in October. So I wasn't doing a huge amount of stitching. And this is a 25 count Aida. So basically there is not much to see right now. This is the corner of one shelf, and this is sort of a book coming up in here. And then I think this is the internal spine of the book. So when you crack open a book and there's that sort of dark between the pages. So not a lot to see, but I'm hoping to get some good progress on this in the next year. And my goal for this one is 3%. So I'm at, I think, 0.31%. So 3% doesn't sound like it's a huge amount of progress, but it actually is, not quite. It's 18, 19, 20,000 stitches, something like that. I'm not going to be able to math that in my head. And I don't think any of you want to see the pained expression on my face when I try and do it, so I'm not going to. But that is Grand Library. And okay, I'm really sorry about all this noise, but as I said, okay. All right, and then the next one, and this is the one, of course, that I did out of order. And where did I put it? Oh, down here. All right. This was sort of it was one obviously I don't start things I don't want to start, but it wasn't like, oh, I have to start it for this reason. I just liked the pattern, and I had the perfect fabric for it. And so I thought, no time like the present, and I was able to start something. So this is from Cross Stitch for the Earth, Emma Compton. And this is Between the Pines. So I did pick this up, and I started it, but I only worked on it for one day, and I didn't come back to it. So this is all I have done. So basically, and the way that pattern is, you have to do it on sort of a dark green fabric in order to get that effect on it. So I don't think that's coming out very well. That's John Mura who said who said the quote on the pattern. So my goal on this, it's about 4 pages. Well, it's 2 full pages. I want to get the bottom right quadrant done. So to get about 25% of this done. And the next one is my first lavender and lace. And this is World Peace Angel. And I think I mentioned this before. One of my parents' friends is a stitcher. And she kindly offered me up quite a bit of her stash. I think a lot of it was stuff that she had already done. But she's so these patterns are used that I got, but this was one of the patterns that she offered to me, and so I took it. I think it's really pretty, and I think we all could use a little bit of piece right now. We always could use a little piece. The pattern, she worked directly from the pattern, so it is taped together in places, so it does make it a little bit challenging, as all lavenders and miras are, because they're one huge thing. And it's a cream color pattern, so I can't even Xerox it very well. So I'm struggling with that. So I worked on this for a little bit, and this is a 32 ground, and I says gray. I don't know who, it's not an over-dyed fabric, so hand-dyed fabric. So that's sort of the outline of the earth. And I mentioned a few videos ago, I recently got a craft desk, and I am hoping that by having the craft desk, some of these unwieldy patterns that I can't make working copies of, the craft desk will help me get a layout that makes it easier to follow them and do what I need to do in order to get more progress. So I want to get basically, like you can see the earth behind her head, to get that done. So quite, make much better progress than this sad little start that I have. I store my projects with the magnetic cable ties, and they're all piled up here, and they're all sticking together. So it's making it at times a bit challenging to pull them apart. Okay. And then the next one is something from the December 2020 World Cross Stitch magazine, which is a British one. It's this one that says "Reading is Magical," but I have totally done a change on the fabric and colors. I went in a different direction, and this is an 18 count Ada from Valkyrie Fabrics. As far as I'm aware, she is no longer dyeing. She just doesn't have the time right now, as far as I'm aware. But I absolutely love this fabric. I wanted the dark fabric, but I didn't necessarily want a navy blue. But because this is purples and pinks, I didn't think the red would work well here. So I changed a lot of like the pinks to the reds to pinks, and changed up some of the other colors as well. So that's where I am now. And I was really happy when I went to my retreat in November, stitching in the springs, the dyer was there, and I got to show this to her. And so I was happy to show her that I was not only buying her fabric, but using it. So that's where I am. And my goal basically on this is some of the magazine pieces are really hard to read, but I think the World of Cross Stitch does a good job. So my goal on this one is to basically, so the book down here is a lot of stitching, and my goal is basically to do everything up here that is not, so not the book, but to get some good progress on that. And then my next one. Okay, so now I think like a lot of people, for No New Starts, Work Your WIPs in No New Starts last year. I did a mad rush in December 2021 to get a lot of starts going. So sort of the next chunk of projects I'm going to show you are a bunch of starts, and some don't have a lot of progress, and some do have some good progress. So this one is Water Goddess by Joan Elliott Designs, and I absolutely love the colors in this. And so this was like the last start I did in 2021, and I loved it. And I started off really gung-ho, and then kind of for a challenge in the Magazine Monthly Challenge, I think it was like do something difficult, like it was Krynic and beads, that kind of thing. And I did 500 stitches of Krynic, and that kind of burnt me out. So I haven't picked this one up in a while. I did a start in the lower left-hand corner because that was the easiest way to follow it. So you can see it's hard to see, but I'm okay on that fabric. This is a light blue Krynic. I'm okay with that because that's the effect you're supposed to get. It's not supposed to be a stark thing on the pattern. And this is 32 count even weave. It's fabric flare, so it is a printed fabric, and it is called the color Pond. So anyhow, that's where I am. And my goal on this one is to, it's one of these patterns that's a really big page, although I was able to make a working copy because it's white and not cream. And so my goal is, so I made a Xerox of sort of the quadrants and to finish, not according to the pattern, but according to my Xeroxes, to finish the Xerox page of my working copy of the first one. So it's not a huge movement. This is one, though, if I get into it, I could keep going because I do love the colors on it. Okay. The next one is from Lindy Stitches. And this is I Forget the Rest. We were together, I forget the rest. I've mentioned this is a sentiment that I absolutely love because I think, throughout a long-term relationship, there's the good and the bad and the ugly, and all of that can fade away. And what should remain, what remains is love, from the Blackbird Design ones. But this is the same sentiment. We were together. That's what was important. And that feeling of, being with someone you love. So here's where I am now. And you might even want to see it right side up. So I sort of tackled, even though it's not as much stitching, the leaves and stuff, there was a lot of counting in that. So I think once I sort of get more into the owls and then the branch they're standing on and even the words, it will go much more quickly. And I sort of mentioned my last one. My owl is not really the same color. This is much darker brown. I am using the called for, but I just think it's a dye lot issue. I'm okay with it. My owl doesn't have to be that brown. It's showing up in the fabric fine. I'll stick with it, but I'm going to make sure that there's enough contrast between the two owls so that when, they don't look like one big amorphous blob. So that's one of the things I do need to take care of. Okay. And then the next one I want to show you, and this is one I don't think I've shown on my channel because it was the last WIP I touched this year. And so that is Whistle Stop Stitcher Designs, Chester's Place. I think many of you are familiar with this. She did it as a charity pattern initially to raise money for Chester, who is the orange kitty here. And she did it to raise money for, basically he was a rescue and he needed like $2,000 in surgery in order to, he had like teeth issues. And within 12 hours, she raised that money and then she put it back up on her Etsy site and basically then said 50% of the proceeds would go to her local animal shelter where Chester came from. So that's, so, I mean, I love the pattern, but I love the reason why she made the pattern as well. So this is 16 count Picture This plus shale. And that's where I am. So not too far. Again, when I did this, I started it with 200 quick stitches, just to meet the requirements of my group. And then, again, nothing wrong with it. It's just when you have 50 plus projects, you don't always get to pick everything up all the time. But my goal is I do want to make some good progress on this. And then there's two things. One, I did not have in my stash, whatever color maybe when I was to kit it up. It's a very light thing in that corner. And then I didn't have it, but I had another limited edition that I got in a Black Needle Society box. Not sure I still love it. I got that motif here. So my way of dealing with that is to just move around it. So I'm going to work on the house next. So that's my goal for this year, upcoming year, is to finish the house. There are so few, this color is used in so few places. And I do, like a lot of people, intend to change some of the animals at the bottom to reflect cats, past and current cats that I have. And I like one of them is a tabby cat. And so that color is perfect for the some of the stripes in the tabby. So I am undecided what I'm going to do. If I, again, it's probably 50 stitches I would have to pick out if I wanted to change the color. But again, it's used in so few places that I'm not terribly worried about it. All right, and then the next piece. This is just my going down backwards. My 44th piece. This is from the Black Needle Society, so it's from the Gilmore Girls television series. They're doing they're doing 4 boxes. 2 have come out, and the third one I've purchased, and I'll get it in the spring. So the first one was Autumn in Stars Hollow, and then the next one was Spring in Stars Hollow. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Gilmore Girls, Stars Hollow is the fictional town where the show takes place. So I am still on that on the autumn block. So here's where I am. I am planning to do it all in as one long piece. This is a long piece of fabric. It's a 28 count linen, just unspecified color, creamish. And so my goal is to get at least the autumn block done. So again, one of these pieces, when I pick it up, is a very easy stitch. It's all full crosses, but they're, and there's a lot of blocks of color. I'm sure when I get down like to the football, it'll be a little bit more complicated, but it's not going to be that hard. Okay. And then, excuse me, my next one is another Lindy Stitches. You can tell I absolutely love her stuff. This one is Beautiful Things, and it says, "Oh, my darling, it's true. Beautiful things have dents and scratches too." And love the sentiment. Love just sort of how this beautiful fence, and then it's broken, and then other things are not perfect over here. I think it's really cute. Again, not one that I have made a huge amount of progress on, but and this is a 32 count even weave from Fortnite Fabrics, and it's called Shall Not Pass. So here is where I am. So again, not a huge amount, but not a huge pattern. So my goal is to finish it. And then my next one, so I went from a bunch of little sort of small ones to, I love my big projects. So this is a very big one. So this is a book that Doreen Jones put together. You can get it, I got it on Amazon. I assume you can still get it there. And she took pottery from Iznik, which is in Turkey, which is a place I lived for about 3 years, and Delft from the Netherlands. Not a place I've lived, but I have visited. And so basically the whole book, so that is Iznik pottery. That's inspired from Delft. And it's really well done because you can, to a certain extent, mix and match. So like you can do this, but there's like other things with different center motifs, and it's all inspired by the work in there. And let's see if I always do this. I kept showing like, this is what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing, because why would I want to do the small one when I can do the super big one? So I'm going to have to go see. She's got a project out. Yeah, here we go. So that is the one I'm doing. And basically the difference between this and the one on the cover is that this has just got a lot more of this sort of ornate, it has this ornate border around. The one on the cover just starts here. So I haven't done very much on this, and there's no reason why, except just a lot of projects. It's really pretty. It's not hard to do. It follows a pattern. This is a 32 count even weave, not over dyed, but I think the cover is called Moon. And so that's basically all I have done. So my goal on this one is from the book to get page 1. So it's not huge. The pages are quite large, so they're easy to read. So it's kind of like coming over to here. But I do start to get a little bit more into the sort of floral motif over here. Love the colors on this, having a lot of fun. Okay, I'm going to have to pause you because I've had to put things in stacks so I can navigate and not have everything crash over. So it will be a couple minutes for me and a moment for you. So one moment, please. Okay, moving on. So I'm still going through my WIPs that I started for at the end of 2021 in preparation for Work Your WIPs 2022. So the next one is a kit. Sorry, so you can hear the beads in there. This is Mirabilia Titania. And this was a giveaway I won from Fortnite Fabrics. And like the pattern, but because it was a kit, a couple things. One, the way that they put the floss in the kit, and this is the manufacturers, not Derek and Christian. The way the manufacturers put it in, it's like done like the floss card is literally like a regular piece of paper. So it's horrible. So it wasn't fun to work on. I've reorganized how I do my floss. So I think I'm just going to take that out of the kit and put it in with my regular stash and just have it there because it's like, it was just horrible to deal with. And the fabric also, nothing serged and it's really doing this. So it's a bit challenging. And again, this is all kit. And so as a result, I haven't done that much, but here is where I am. So a little bit on her dress. So my goal is basically to get the main part of the dress done. So it's quite a bit more than I have done now, but I think once I get that in and I just am able to get a little bit more moving on it, I will start to enjoy working on this again a little bit more. I'm struggling again, as I said, with the kit fabric. But it is, a lovely figure, and thank you to Christian and Derek for giving that in a giveaway. All right, and the next one that I have to show you is, I think you've seen it from a lot of people. This is Magic Study. This is from Heaven and Earth Design, artwork by Rose Kahn, and this is the rainbow version, not the limited edition one. And I am doing this on 25 count even weave, 1/1, full cross. And unless a pattern calls for 10 stitch or half stitch, everything I do is full cross. So here's where I am. And so my goal, I'm about like 1.9% done. And my goal for next year is 4%. So about double what I have. And again, this is one of the projects, I love it. But I have some pretty substantial goals on other full coverages that I'm working on. And so as much as I would love to give them all the love, while I don't mind things taking a little bit more than a year, I don't want to give myself a goal that takes me 10 years to accomplish, because who knows what's going to be happening in 10 years. So shoving everything back into the bag. Sorry for the noise. Okay. Next one is another one I'm sure many of you are familiar with. This is One Nation from Bygone Stitches. A lot of people have done like One State, One Star week or whatever. I know Janet Jabber did that, and a lot of people picked up on it. I have a problem with that kind of homework assignment, so to speak, and that's not to be critical, but it's just sort of, if I feel like I have to do it, I either want to pick up a project and just keep going with it, or work a little bit and then not come back to it for a while. So that kind of those short spurts don't work well for me. But here's where I am now. And once I got into this, it's very rhythmic. It's a pattern. So once you sort of know like X number of stitches to here, and then like 2 stitches and then going back down, it's mesmerizing in a way. And so a lot of fun. So this is 36 count. Picture this plus ale. It actually is the called for fabric. And I had it in maybe not the count, but the color. I had it in my stash, and that's very rare that I actually am doing it on the called for fabric. But I had it. So I said, and you have to make that white pop. And it works really well on this. So my goal for next year is just to get all of the stars done. And the next one that I'm going to show you, it did break my heart a little bit to reduce my goal on this, because I had a more lofty goal. And I kind of came to the realization that something had to give, and this was one of them. So this is Sunset Koala from Patterns by the Cross Stitch Studio. Love this pattern. Dizzy Stitcher is sort of started a stitch along forever. I think a lot of people are sort of like me in this ear up here. This is a full coverage pattern, so you could choose to stitch all the white, but it is just white. There's no modeling or anything. I, like many people, chose not to do that. So here is where I am now. So I do it on Pattern Keeper, but it is, as a result, distorted in Pattern Keeper how much I have done. So I think it says like I've done like 48%, and there is no way that, obviously this is not almost 50% of the pattern. So my goal on this one is 53%, and I had wanted to make that goal higher, but I just sort of, when I started adding up how many stitches, something I had to reduce a little bit. So this was one. But yeah, that will definitely get me to finish this ear and start to get more into the koala's head. And this is I didn't say it, a 22 count Hardanger fabric. And the next one is Bluebird Trail from the Crosswing collection. So here's what the pattern looks like. And this is one that basically I only worked on it for one day this year. So I started it late last year. And there's no, again, it's a beautiful pattern. The fabric is fabric that they have there, that it's not something easy to find, but I was able to find basically a perfect fabric for it. And it was 50% off. So, so this is here's where I am. So a lot of that bird is done. And so this is a hard copy pattern, but it's printed on big paper and it's done page by page. So it's very easy to follow. So I meant to say this is fabric flare and the color is sky, which makes it look, it's not, clouds are not quite as white, but I don't need that kind of whiteness. Beautiful fabric. I love my blues. So my goal on this is to finish page 2, which I know sounds a little bit strange, but if you think about I don't know how many pages, but page 1 is probably there's not much on page 1 except for maybe the tip top there. So basically that will allow me to finish the bird and then sort of come, I don't know how far down, but a little bit on the birdhouse there, which I think is a realistic goal for this piece. It's beautiful, but it's not, I have a lot of bird stuff that I work on. So I'm balancing out my birds. Okay. And the next one, I think, is a pattern that most of you are familiar with, and it is Anzac from Long Dog Samplers. So it's lots of motifs from Australia and New Zealand. And this, I've said this before, this was my first long dog that I had ever done. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. I chose to do it in monochromatic. I love looking at people who used, it might be a monochromatic design, but they use several colors to make certain motifs pop. I love that, but because this was my first one, I didn't try it. So I just have a huge cone of this color from Sulky, and I'm doing it on a white 32 count even weave. That's where I am. So I'm almost at 30% on this. And once I got, this part went a little bit slowly as I was still trying to get into the rhythm of long dogs. But once I got into it, it just flies. This guy over here, I worked on this a couple days ago. And I think I did 500 stitches in 3 hours. And I am not a fast stitcher. I have time to stitch, but I don't stitch fast within that time. And there's counting in this guy too. It's not like it was just a blob of color. Doing the kangaroos weren't really fast because, yes, you had to be careful where you were at the end of each line, but it wasn't hard. Where this guy had a lot of counting. Occasional lines across, but still just so much fun. Like everyone has said, when you do a long dog, to see all of the mainly animals, but things come to life, just looking at that lighthouse, for example, just watching it pop, and the way, again, I think you all are stitchers, when you're stitching on something and you're staring at the individual symbols, and then all of a sudden you step back and you're like, I don't know why I'm skipping, doing 1, skipping 2. And then all of a sudden you step back and the design has emerged. It's pretty fantastic, and Long Dog is for that. So this is actually the only one I own right now. But when I get to that point where I finish or get close to finish it, I will be getting more because they're just such a joy to stitch. Hopefully one day Pattern Keeper will figure out how to do the back stitch. That's the only downside of doing it on Pattern Keeper is you do have to go back to the original one to see where the back stitch is. So in that one, even though I am about 30%, my goal is only to hit 50%. And again, that was one where I just started to do the math and said, I need to maybe not overwhelm myself. So that was something. But again, if I want to work on it, I'm going to work on it. I'm not going to say once I hit my goal, my piece is going away for good. All right. My next piece I want to show you. So this is a small that I wanted to give away from Seasook Stitch from Carolyn. And this is Princess Lily. And I do not speak French, so I'm not even going to try and say the name of the company. So little cute pattern. I probably don't have the best fabric to do it on, so I haven't done that much. I've just sort of done, this is a little bit part of the carriage. So I think what I need to do is rather than sort of focus on this, I need to go to the center of the carriage and work out. So my goal for the upcoming year is to sort of get the body of the carriage done. And that way with this fabric, I will be less frustrated in dealing with it. I think it's so, you can see me through it. So, well, probably can't, but it's so transparent that it sometimes makes the counting. And that's just a 28 count pink fabric from which not an over dyed. Okay. The next one is a SAL that I did not start the SAL, but I jumped on the bandwagon. I think it was from the Grace Nose Fabric. I think both Corinna and Colleen are doing it as well as Hannah Dowling. And I just jumped on their bandwagon. They started it. And so I had, Tilton Crafts has a lot of patterns that have sort of this cozy scene. Somehow, I don't know if they're all pianos by a fire, but it's this sort of warm scene with a musical instrument. And they may all, and warm, I mean by like comfortable hygge for those people who, watch the Hygge Stitcher, although I think she does the Danish pronunciation. I do the Norwegian one. But these nice scenes of a very comfortable sort of music and a fire. I think some of the other colorways might be a little bit cooler. This one is a very warm one, obviously. So I jumped on this bandwagon because I already had this and I thought, well, that's a good excuse to start it. So I am about not quite 5% into this. So my goal is to get to 10% next year. So here is where I am now. And there is nothing to see. You can kind of start to see a little bit here. It's more the negative space, but there's a cage up here. This is the mantle to the fireplace, and this is the actual hearth. So the fire is here. It's not going to show up well on this camera, but basically this is a vase, and like if you think like the light is coming from behind, so you deliberately don't see the vase very well. But when I look at it in person, once I got all the stitches in there, it's not just a shaded vase. Like you can actually very, very lightly, and it's just not going to show up on the camera, see a pattern on the vase, as you would if your light source was coming from here and no light is really directly hitting on this. So beautiful picture, and I enjoy working on it. So I'm hoping to double my progress next year. I didn't say that is a 22 count even weave that I'm doing it on. Okay, and so that is it from my starts that I did towards the end of 2021 in preparation for 2022. That year, and so in 2021, the way No New Starts worked was you were entitled, I think, to one freebie start. And that start, I started it in 2021. I started and finished it during that calendar year. Now I can't remember which project that was, but it may have been, that one right there, which is from Stitching Book Club. That's the Sense and Sensibility one. It may have been that one. And I knew that was when I was going to start. So I have nothing from literally like December 2021. And now we're going back to December 2020, where I started a boatload of projects in preparation for no new starts. So the last one I started then, and I think it was the last one I started because I was dithering about the fabric. And this is the Pandemic Sampler from Sarcy Girl. And she was so gracious and gave anyone who wanted this pattern for free. And it's just a gorgeous sampler. And I think what it was, this is obviously a dark gray fabric, and she gives instructions on if you wanted to dye it. That's a little bit beyond my willingness to do that. So I was going through, and I ordered some fabric, and it wasn't the right stuff. And then I started it on this, and this is a 32 count even weave from Fortnite Fabrics, and it's called Panther Cap. And I wasn't sure when I started this if I was going to like these colors on this fabric, but as I started, because it's sort of a cool brown and these are a lot of warm colors, but as I started working it, I actually really, really like it. So here's where I am now. And so basically I think I kind of did that, like do the minimum 200. And then I probably mostly finished out the border at some point in 2021. And then this year, I think I pulled it out once, 1 month, and put in about 1,000 stitches, and sort of that was it. Again, it's just with all the projects I have, don't get a chance to work on it much. But this is a lovely, lovely project. And so my goal is to basically finish page 1. Now, that whole border, this is page 1, and I don't know what page is below it. So this is like 2 pages of border here. So basically I have to finish maybe over to here with the border and get some motifs in. The only part on page 1 I will not do is the roof of one of the houses is there. And when I tackle the house, I want to tackle it, the whole thing at once. So that is not on my goal to achieve. So hoping to get some good progress on that. Or, there's something about a page completion, I think we all know, that just sort of is satisfying. Okay, and then the next piece I have is another one that is a gorgeous project, but it just goes really slowly because I don't pull it out that often. And that is Jane Bannister from Hands Across the Sea. So a reproduction sampler, of course, because it's also known as the one with the giant cats, because these are kittens and they're bigger than every other thing on the pattern. This is the only project I have ongoing right now is silks. I may have another one that I'm going to be starting on New Year's Eve that has silks, but right now this is the only one I have. And it's a lot of silk, and it was really expensive. But here is where I am now. And again, I move slowly with this one. And again, when I actually pick it up, it stitches quickly. It's just not something I gravitate towards. So my goal is to basically finish page 1 and 2, which sort of comes over to about here. The only thing I won't do is, it says page 2 is where it says Jane Bannister, her work. I'm not sure what I'm going to put in there. If I do just do an authentic and put the exact same words there, I will. Right now, I don't love it. It's in black, and I don't love it in black. So I think what I want to do is use up what the silk I have, and if there's another color that I clearly have enough to get there, I may use that color for that. I'm also not sure if I want, I know there's a whole debate about how authentic are you to the reproduction sampler. I know what Nicola from Hands Across the Sea says, and she says, do what you want. It's your sampler. I'm of the mind that by stitching this, I am respecting the girl who did it and looking back at her history. But if I make some changes, that's not disrespecting her past. That's my opinion. I know there are other people who do not share that view, and that's okay. That's what, we're all individuals. So there's a part of me that wants to put my name in there. But then there's also a part of me that doesn't necessarily need my name to be so front and center in this pattern. So again, the rate I'm going, it's going to take me a long time to get there. So I have years to think about it. And again, it's a huge sampler. Okay. And then this is the last one in this pile. This is Swan Lake from Alfor's embroidery. So this is the only ongoing Alfor's embroidery I have, although I love their patterns. But given the current political situation, I'm not because of them, but you can't get the kits anymore. And I love the floss in their kits and those kinds of things. They did a workaround so you could get their, oops, now I just dropped the needle. I'll have to pick that up later. That's one thing about my craft chest. Sorry, that probably was really loud. There is a metal thing here because the desktop actually comes up like this. So I don't want to say it's a drafting table, but you can pull it up and lean things against it and not have to be, going over it like that. But at the same time, this thing is here to hold your papers, and it gets in my way, and I constantly having things stuck to it. So anyhow, that's a lot of chatting. Here's where I am. And someone in one of my groups became Instagram friends with me, and there was a picture on Instagram that was like less of this done. And she, I think, looked at the date and she's like, Debbie, you need to pick up and do it. And I agree with you. I need to do more. I said, well, I have done more, but not enough, given that this is now from late 2020. So basically, my goal is to finish sort of the bottom half. And the bottom half is, if I can show you, it's basically, so there's the row of 4 ballerinas here, and then coming over more stuff here. So like these swans, I think are, these swans are not. So sort of under here. And again, one of the pieces, it is linen, and it's a very uneven linen. So I have to use a magnifier for this one. Because if I don't, I can't. I do have some mistakes there already where I think my X is the right size, but I've either done it over 1 or I've skipped and I've done 3. It's hard for me. I do prefer even weave over linen. That's just, it's not so much the consistency of the X's as my ability to be consistent in the way I stitch. And that's for me. I was an Ada stitcher for so long that's the way it is. Okay, so I have finished the stack. I'm going to bend down and try and find that needle, and then I'm going to bring the next stack over here. So one moment, please. Okay, so my next piece is one I'm sure you're all familiar with, and that is Heartstring Samplery. His eye is on the Sparrow. This is one I absolutely love the piece, but it's just been very, very, very slow for me. And again, part of it, I think, is I'm doing it on a 36 count linen, which I've decided is not my favorite, but I'm going to keep going. And I am doing it because I normally on 36, I do have another piece on 36, and I made the decision to do 2/1 on that. 2/2 on that. This one I am doing 1/2 because she actually did 1/2 on 28 count in the model. So I haven't gotten very far on this one, as you can see. So I would like to get some good progress on this. I want, when Jen Lee, I think last year, did a push of where she was trying to whittle down her projects. And so the assumption was for a lot of people, you pick your smallest ones to get some finishes, quick finishes. And she did some of that, but she also took bigger projects and she attacked them. And this was one of them. And I was amazed, like once she put her mind to it, how quickly it got done. That's sort of an inspiration for me. So my goal for this one is just to get page 1 done. There's a few more animals, a little bit of the border on top here. These flowers actually go down. This is the border here. This actually is the page below page 1. So it's doable. Again, it's one of those I just need to put my mind to it and work on it. Okay. The next one I have is Midnight Vigil. It's a mini from Heaven and Earth Designs. So this little black kitty, artwork by Lisa Parker. And it's on an 18 count Ada. And here is where I am. So I am done about 20%. And so my goal for next year is to do about 30%. So if I did 10% in 2021 and 10% in 2022, that gets me up. And that, so right about here is the halfway point across. So it is a portrait, so it's longer than it is, but love the way this is coming out, the detail, and this is the reflection of the cat's face and just that expression. I mean, the charting is great. The artwork is great. So I'm really enjoying watching this one come to life. So it is one of my full coverages that, even though it's not a focus on a finish type full coverage, I do want to get a lot of stitches in it simply because I love it so much. And it is for, it is a mini, so I think it's about 80,000 stitches. So for a full coverage, it's, you know, it's not huge. It's not like the bookshelves from Amy's store. So excuse me for that noise. The next one is another Lindy Stitches. This is Beach Dance. So these two blue-footed boobies. And here's where I am. So this is a 32 count even weave. I don't know what the color is on it, unfortunately. It's sort of this minty green, but I have another one, which I think is called mint, and it's a very different color than this. So my goal, this one, is just to finish one of the birds, which is quite a bit of stitching because these are solid birds. Okay, now the next one. Now it's where you're going to start to see where maybe I have modest goals on some things because I have intense goals on other things. So this is Huckleberry Farm from the Blue Flower. Love this pattern. Again, this was that color in the photo is called Shale from Picture This Plus. It's got that lovely purple tinge. I purchased a piece of shale, and it's much more brown. It's a beautiful color. That's what I did Chester's Place on. This piece didn't, like, I would have had a really tight order, so I decided not to even try it. But I decided if I can't get a piece of shale in the size I want, I might as well just go all out and pick a different color and go purple. So that's what I did with this. So this is 32 count Picture This Plus Bimsy. It is a linen. And here is where I am. So just love that little, I don't even know what that thing is, a chipmunk sitting in an interesting position, not like your typical side view that you get of a chipmunk. And the basket of berries. And so love this one. It's just, I struggled. I made some significant mistakes in the vine. And while, a stitch here or two there in the vine, it's not you don't line these up. So I don't have to worry about going all the way across and meeting on the other side. It was enough that it would have messed up the way that it looked. So I did pull it out and have to redo it, and that slowed me down. But I am working with a group of stitchers, and we have decided, I've seen Jessie Marie does stuff, and Sammy J and Michelle Bendy, a bunch of people, where they take a pattern and they break it up into 12 pieces and they get it done. So a group of us, we've sort of created a little group just to motivate each other. We're all doing different patterns. And I've decided this is the one I'm doing. So that is here. So I have a huge amount of this pattern left. And so I'm going to break it up into 12 pieces. They're not going to be even pieces because I have another piece that I want to get done earlier this year. I will get a little bit done every month, but the idea is that as I feel like I have more time in the year, which is of course never true, my pieces will get bigger to compensate for the things I theoretically have finished. So this is going to, if I do accomplish that, this is going to be a big finish for me in 2023. But I love the Blue Flower. I think she is my favorite designer. I was very excited at the Jingle Ball that I got to just listen to her and sat in on her meet and greet. and she wanted to see all of her little animals. So I brought one of my kitties, Maya, and she commented on Maya. She recognized her as a tortoiseshell. Which in and of itself isn't like, tortoiseshells are pretty distinctive, but when you're talking about, this teeny little thing, you can see that you can still see what kind of cat it is. It's Janine loves her animals. So looking forward to getting that done. Okay. And then the next one I have, this is a kit, Sunset, which was a division of Dimensions. And now I think if they've actually just gone ahead and rebranded it as Dimensions. But this I was fortunate to get from someone. So it's still called Sunset, and it's called Bag Ladies. If you have a cat, you know why this is appropriate. And I got the kit Ada, but the person had used all the floss. So Dimensions has its own floss that it makes. But I went online and found a conversion. And so I'm just using DMC. And not theirs, but I'm fine with it. But again, this is actually all, again, with the Dimensions and the way that they do it. Sometimes you use full cross, sometimes you use half stitch. So this whole bag is like a half stitch, and it's not to do that mass of half stitch. It's not natural for me. And so I get confused where I'm counting, because I'm like, I should be like, if I'm supposed to be going down from it, but I see a hole, I end up going over. So you think doing half stitch means you would fly on it, and I don't, especially when it's not like a solid mass. I mean, love the texture in this bag here. So my goal for next year is to do one bag and one cat. I don't know exactly. I'll probably do this bag because I started it. I don't know which cat. Show you the picture here. So this is the bag that is done. I can either do this bag and do the kitty that's in the teal bag, or I can do this bag and do the kitty that's sticking out of this bag. Undecided at this point. I have time. So that's my goal. Modest, but I think this pattern is so cute. And again, y'all know I'm a cat lady, so no surprise there. And then the next one is from a magazine. And this is Love One Another. And this is from an old, I think, May, June 94. So Cross Stitch and Country Crafts. So got a lot of vintage magazines because I had a subscription in the 90s. And so I am modifying this pattern mainly because I had to fit it onto the piece of black Ada that I had. And so definitely not doing this sort of border here. And not sure if I'll do all these little doodads here. Definitely won't do the doodad up above love, but that's not, I think what I'm going to do is do all of this, including the roses, and then make a decision if I need something filler to go in there or if it looks good enough. But here's where I am. This is probably Charles Craft, very stiff Ada. And so it's not the easiest thing. And then there's a lot of fractionals. And so piercing this fabric is really hard. But my goal is to finish all the words. And so obviously I need to do love and another, but there's also a lot, like all these letters are backstitch. So, but hopefully the backstitching, I won't have to pierce any fabric and it will go quickly. If I were a talented editor, I would cut out all these bits where I'm shoving everything in the bag, but I actually have to use a different editing software because they took away my free one. So I still have a free one, but I'm not as comfortable with it as I was with the other free software. All right, so my next one is another magazine piece, and this is from the Cross Stitch and Country Craft March, April 96. It's this one called In the Garden. You'll see the fabric I'm using is lighter, but I actually think it's a much better color for this. That looks like an evening sky, which I don't think matches the scene. So I went for, I like to say that I actually put thought into this, but I used what I had in my stash. It was 2020 after all. We needed to use what we had. But I love the way all of these colors are popping off of this. I pick up a new color and I'm just amazed. Like I did these blue flowers here in the past few weeks and just love the way they pop off of this blue. And this is a 28 count Lakeside Linen in the colorway Aqua Mist. Again, because this is a magazine chart and it's really small, and there's a ton of back stitching, it is hard to read. So I have to do this one very, very slowly. So my goal is actually to finish the top half of this, but that's not a huge amount. It's finishing this purple flower here, including all the back stitch. And then there is another birdhouse here. And I think there's another butterfly, and there might be a butterfly over here or something. There really isn't a huge amount. But again, because of the quality of the pattern, I have to be in the right mode to stitch it, because it requires a certain level of concentration and visual acuity that sometimes I don't feel that I have. I mean, I just have reading glasses, but I need a magnifier, and the magnifier is actually not for the linen, but it's for the pattern. That's how difficult it is to read. I feel like magazines have caught on to that, and they make they've learned that they just need to spread a pattern over a couple more pages if they have a larger pattern. Anyhow, next one I have is my first Amy Stewart that I started from Heaven and Earth Designs, and this is Little Cake Shop. So sweet little scene of a little French patisserie. I think that's how you say it. And this one in 2021, I was gung-ho on it, and then this year, not because of anything with the pattern, but I just didn't get a lot of, picking up other things and didn't get a lot of progress on this. So here's where I am now, and I would say the vast majority of this was done in 2021. So I am about, I think 4.1% or so on this one. And I had originally had a more ambitious 10%, reached the 10% on this. And then I realized it's a fairly large piece. I think it's about 450,000 stitches, that I wasn't going to, that would be a lot of stitches. So I reduced it down to 9%, which is dropping 4,500 stitches. So it's not anything to sneeze at in the number of stitches that I want to do over the upcoming year or so. But if I cut 1% here, 1% there, that's 10,000 stitches or so. All right. And then the next piece is another magazine piece. That's the cover photo. So that is Winter Wonderland. So this little sort of hallmark scene, for lack of a better word, little inn with people ice skating and horseback riding. Sleighs. And it's from the September, October 19, I think it's, what year is it? I'm not going to, 92. So an older pattern, 30 years old. And again, not one this is a 28 count. It actually, according to when I bought it, it said it was a hand dyed. It's beautiful modeling on it, and it's actually really soft, but it's a witched. So it's not your traditional hand dye, and it came all fringy like this. So it's just not something that I gravitate towards. This summer I put in a huge amount of white stitches over here, and I felt like I just didn't even scratch the surface. So my goal for the upcoming year is to sort of finish the bow, which really doesn't have that much, and then the dark blue. So there's a lot of dark blue that has to be done with little snowflakes. All those little dots are snowflakes, and then the trees that sort of go in between. So it's one of these things that once you sort of get into the rhythm of it, they're not random snowflakes. It's do a stitch, count two, do a stitch, count two, up, down, left, right. So it's not hard. You just have to make sure you don't run into a tree, because there are trees there, but then the trees are all solid stitching. It's not hard. It's just not a piece that always calls to me. Okay, next one. This is a cute little one called Caroline and Emma from another magazine. And a lot of these, again, I'm still in the pieces that I started for in late 2020 in preparation for New Starts 2022. And I love the concept of the Magazine Monthly Challenge to encourage us to stitch things from magazines. We knew what the themes were, so I started a bunch that I thought I could meet the themes, and this was one of them. So this is called Caroline and Emma. It's called Sister Bears, but that kind of looks like Mummy and Baby Bear, but it's called Sister Bears, Caroline and Emma. So this one, you know, part of me feels like I'm really close to a finish because basically I just need to finish like the ribbon coming down here and then some of the toys down here. Yeah. But then there's, again, it's from the 90s. There's a boatload of backstitching. Again, I have no issues with backstitch. It just takes time. So like to get accent all the folds in the dress here, it's like up and down, up and down. But my goal is to finish this. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to finish this. Again, I just need to put my mind to it and work on it and just get involved with more with the Magazine Monthly Challenge. And once I do that, once I get more involved, you know, it's easy to pull this one out. And then there's always some prompt somewhere that says animals and clothes, and teddy bear is an animal, isn't it? So, all right, so that is Caroline and Emma. And then the next one I have to show you is from, oops, and I'm going to bend down one moment. I actually am doing two different pieces from the same magazine, so I have to remember to put everything back together. So this is from The World of Cross Stitch, December 2020. It's the same one I'm doing, Reading is Magical. So this cute little cat hanging from a wreath, because I don't have enough cat pieces. And here's where I am. So I've got good progress on this. This is just a piece of, I think, Charles Craft's 16 count light blue data, but pretty for the background. And my goal for this is to get the cat done. So cat head, I've got a lot of like the bulk of the feet, but I still need to do like the toe beans, and then I obviously need to do the body. But again, because this is Ada, it's easy to stitch. Okay. Next one is another ambitious thing I have. This is O Joyous Day from Blackbird Design. And my goal is to finish this, but to finish it relatively quickly. I would love to get this done in time for my husband's birthday in May. Our 20th anniversary is the following month. And so I tend to do this as a commemoration piece. I don't want to do it for our anniversary because we got other things we're doing for our anniversary, and my husband is not an easy man to buy gifts for. So I have to sort of try and think about when I'm going to get him. So here's where I am. So I think basically my goal is, I have to, so the whole top part is done. This whole side is done. This band is done with all the letters. So what I have in the middle part to do is I need to finish, obviously, this bird here. There's more letters here. That big house in the middle. And then the whole bottom row. The bottom row is, they're not the exact same flowers like up here, but it's similar. And these were not that hard to stitch. The house will be a bit of a bear to stitch. And I need to chart what it's going to say. I think I'm going to put our names. And I don't know if it's going to say like 20 years or our wedding date. Like I haven't gotten that far yet. But I think, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out like what was it going to say. And I think that's just probably the easiest for us. So that is a finish, and that is an early finish that I want to get done. Okay. And then the next one is Let Freedom Ring by Leela Studio. So beautiful shot of Independence Hall and lots of motifs around the Revolutionary War. And this is done on 32 count linen from Picture This Plus in the colorway Wren. And here is what I've gotten done. So not a huge amount here. And so my goal in this is to finish pages 6 and do 11. So it's really not 2 pages, like page 6, basically finishes here. And then, so and then I think it's like here. So like, I'm not even sure that tree is on page 6, and then to do down here. And a lot of what down here is part of this building, this wing. And so a lot of like the colors I use here will just continue on down there. So not it's not, words are escaping me because I've been talking for over an hour. Pattern is easy to read, but it's detailed work, and it's the kind of thing where you want to make sure that you're getting it done correctly. And so not that you don't want your other stitches not to be done correctly, but some things are more forgiving if you make mistakes. But, if you mess up on a building and it, then it looks a little bit weird. So, okay. And then, so that is it for the pieces that were the mad dash to get done in December 2021. And so now I'm going to move backwards to pieces that I started when I didn't have any restrictions. So I was starting in 2020 about one piece a month. It wasn't necessarily consistent. Certainly for Mania. And when I hit Mania, I'll tell you, some months I didn't start anything. But some months I started, besides Mania, one or two. But I, and I didn't say this at the beginning, but I was a monogamous stitcher until very late in 2019. So I've been stitching for over 30 years, but the craziness of Flosstube inspired me to stitch big or stitch home. So the next one was one I had started during the year, mainly for Magazine Monthly Challenge, but I also got to double dip because I needed something with a weather vane. And let me tell you, not that many pieces have weather vanes. So this is a piece called Autumn Blessings from December 92, Cross Stitching Country Crafts. The sentiment doesn't speak to me, but I love that motif at the top. So I am just doing this bit at the top. And I'm using, it's a piece of printed fabric. I don't know the name of the company. I don't know, but I've got it in a giveaway from Laura, Stitching by the Shore. And so here's where I am. So I've done that whole center motif, all that is full coverage, and all of the back stitching and long stitches and all of that. So my goal for next year is to finish all of the stuff on the right. So that is a stump, the apples, but they need a lot of back stitching. There's a squirrel, there's some acorns, and sort of coming up here and doing the border. So again, magazine piece. It's not a huge amount of stitching, but not easy to read the pattern. And yet another magazine piece for the next one. Because I started a bunch of magazine pieces for the magazine challenge. And then if I participate in a month with Magazine Monthly Challenge, I try and stitch on my existing magazine pieces. I'm not doing a new start for every prompt. So this is from September, October 94. It's called Ghostly Greetings. So it says, have a spectacular Halloween. And there's a lot of Kreinik in this. I haven't decided. The ghosts are, the white in the ghost is actually 100% Kreinik. I haven't committed to that yet. I may just do it in like white or something and be done with it. Because I don't think it needs all that. I like the lettering. It does have that in Kreinik, and I think that works out really well. And there is some blending filament in the bow, and I like that too, but I'm not sure the ghosts need to have all that Kreinik. So here's where I am. And so my goal is to basically not quite double what I've done, but basically it's a repeating motif. So basically on the other side, do everything from this pumpkin, and then so go around. So finish the bow, do the black hat, and then do the jack-o'-lantern down here. And this is a sort of beige piece of Ada that I had in my stash, probably from, I don't know if it was Charles Craft or someone else. Okay, so that is it. I have one more stack, so I'm going to pause you and go get the last stack. Okay, I've resumed. Okay, so my last stack. So it means that I'm down to my last 15 projects to show you. All right, so the next one, which I don't think I've shown this since I've pulled off the block, is off the Q-Snap, is a year at Hawk Run Hollow. So I am, you'll see, working down. So I just finished the October block within the past week or so. And this is on a 36 count linen from Picture This Plus, and I think the color is Heartland. So here is where I am. And the reason why I chose to go down is I then do want to go across. So my goal is to do the November and December blocks across the bottom, and then I will cut off the fabric. I don't see, it keeps going. Oops, you can kind of see the bottom there. And the reason why I, one time, a long time ago, miscut a fabric. Unfortunately, I realized I miscut it before I even started, so it wasn't like I did a huge project and then ran out of thing. But it makes me nervous to cut my fabric a lot before I know like that I've reached the bottom. And I've heard scary things of people who measure really, really carefully and cut appropriately, but then the fabric is mislabeled or it wasn't a perfect rectangle. It was more like an octagon. And so you measure one place and you have enough, and then as you stitch over anyhow. So my goal is to get 2 more blocks done on that. That December block is full coverage, so that is quite a bit. I also spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out how to do French knots or colonial knots. I'm going to say, if you are doing a video, it is not good to say they're not hard. People are watching it because it is hard. There's a lot, like with a cross stitch, it's whatever, but there are spatial things about going over and under and left to right, and if are you left-handed or right-handed, and it's not helpful when you're like, I don't know why you're scared. It's not hard. It's not that I'm scared of them, but if it's not something you're used to doing, my little cat's in there, have wonky eyes, I'm okay with it. It's the Halloween block. And I think I ended up doing colonial knots because the French knots I couldn't figure out from watching a couple of videos, and my patience from the person telling me it's not hard, why are you concerned, really annoyed me. All right, so my next one, all right, off my soapbox. My next piece I'm going to show you, this is White Owl from Artisy, artwork by Kayumi Harai. And here's where I am. So this is all the way over to the far edge. So I do have the width of the project done. And my goal on this one is it's 18 count Ada, and my goal is to hit 30%. And I think I'm about 22% right now. It's a smaller project, so that's really not a huge number of stitches. But there's a lot of like block stitching, and I'm getting burnt out on this project, and I didn't put much into it this year. I may move down and start working around the owl, and hopefully that will give me a little bit more inspiration on this. Okay. The next one is the tea table. This is a vintage design from Serendipity Designs. So just this pretty little scene of a teapot and a cup of tea. I do love a good cup of tea. I have one here. It's cold. It's green mint tea. It's delicious. But I've been talking for over an hour. It got cold. But anyhow, this one, again, it's a very unwieldy pattern. I don't want to totally, it's one huge piece of paper. It's like a mirror. And I think I finally got a decent Xerox of it. But I still have to go back to the original to look at the folds and write. And I think I was not wanting to work on it because I was working on a motif that was right in the fold, like center. So I made a decision. Sometimes you just got to work through it. And that's what I'm going to do. So this teapot, I made a decision. I want to focus on the teapot because then if I make any errors accounting, I can, there may be like, I can just fudge it from the teapot. So that's where I am. And my goal on this one is quite ambitious. It is to get that teapot done. It is quite large. A little chunk of it is taken out because the teacup, I'm not including the teacup in that. Now, obviously I'm not going to do the back stitching until I do everything around it. But it's big, but it's a lot of block stitching. And I love this piece, but oh, by the way, I meant to say we've moved into my mania pieces. I think this was my last mania start in 2020, which was the only year I ever did mania. So I loved the concept, but it was on it. That was the last year, I think, of the group. Maybe he did it in 2021. But like the challenge that they were no longer as interested. People move on. I don't have an issue with that, but it didn't have the same allure for me that I think it has for a lot of people who sort of jumped on to mania when it first came out. Okay. Next one, I originally saw Julie from Kansas City Girl and Colorado World working on it, and I went and hightailed it and bought this pattern. So this is, I think this may have been a sal at some point, but I bought it the complete thing. It is Fabulous Women by Clouds Factory. And I'm doing it on opalescent fabric. It is 32 count. I am not sure what the color is because I keep calling it Whimsy, and it's not Whimsy because Whimsy is that more purplish that not that this isn't purple, but this is more a different shade of purple. So here's where I am. So that is Cleopatra and Joan of Arc and Queen Elizabeth and Jane Austen. And I am right now working on Sacagawea. And I love that they have women of color featured prominently in this. At some point, I am going to make some changes. Not all of the women speak to me. Like, I'm just not obsessed with Marilyn Monroe, so I'm probably going to change that to Katharine Hepburn because obviously she's much older than I am, but she graduated from my alma mater, so we always sort of have, like, she's legendary for us. And there are some other people down there that Coco Chanel, I'm not a fashionista, doesn't speak to me as much, so I will change them. The two figures, and I don't know where I'm going to put them, because it is sort of, it's not perfectly chronological, but it kind of is. Oh, and Harriet Tubman is the last one on that row, by the way. Then I want to change, I want to put Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Kamala Harris in there. I know that's very American of me, but I am American, and those are two, I would say, leading women in the United States, and I think it's important to recognize their contributions. So anyhow, my goal on this, and again, this is one of those pieces, when I pick it up, it goes relatively quickly. I do need the magnifier because it's opalescent, and it's a linen. I could do opalescent if it's without a problem, but because I wasn't using the magnifier up here, there are some counting mistakes, so I think that slowed me down as well. But my goal is basically finish this whole top part. So I should finish Sacagawea. I have, I know Harriet Tubman is the last one, but there's someone in between. We have Queen Victoria and Susan B. Anthony. And then Architects of Society. So I think I've got Architects, and I need to still put in of Society. So that is my goal for the upcoming year. And it's just it is, I think it's important to recognize the people who have come in front of us and helped us either bring us our rights or helped, advancements in science, and to recognize their contributions, because so often everything they did gets swept under the rug. Okay, and my next one, and there it is. Sorry, everything's out of order. I don't know what I did here. I've totally messed this up. All right. Fabulous Women. Okay. So I have my little index cards, and I had them all stacked with the numbers on them and everything. All right. So project number 12 is Gone Batty. This is Brenda Gervais. I need a little with my needle. Anyhow. So this little scene with the cat and the bats. And I didn't work on this. I worked on this, I think, a lot in October, November. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. It came out a few times. But I was able to finish the cat, and I was able to start working over here. And again, once I pick this up, this is a 28 count linen. It's a German one. It is overdyed. I didn't like the called for Kermit, so I wanted a different one. I was concerned about borders, but this is the edge of that. The bat does cut off there. I've got plenty of there, and maybe like 2.5 inches or something. So my goal on this is a finish, because when I pick it up, it's a lot of block stitching. It's easy to do, not that many colors. So my goal on this one is a finish. All right. The next one is kind of the antithesis of a finish. And this is Oak Drive from Mystic Stitch. I only have a hard copy of this pattern. It is confetti heavy, but I love it. It is, I say this every time I pull it out, this to me is home, not so much the dirt road. But I live in northern Florida, not near the beach. And live oaks, which is what these trees are here, is the tree sort of known for where I live. And it just, and you do have roads where you drive along, and you have the live oak trees over over, or maybe not right over the road, because if power lines are going down the road, got to make sure those branches don't get on the power lines. But, you know, just these beautiful sort of images, and like we got a Spanish moss hanging off of it, which is kind of nasty in of itself. Beautiful to look at, touch it. There's bugs and stuff in it. But because this is so confetti heavy and a paper pattern, it goes really slowly. So I don't have much progress on this. And Mystic Stitch is out of business, so there is no way I can buy an electronic version of this. But here's where I am. So I originally had started doing this with parking and going down like blocks, you know, 10 by 10 blocks. Parking is not for me, and with so much confetti, it was taking me so long. So I pulled on all those threads, and then I did a lot of this branch coming down, because this was more solid stitching, a lot of 310 and 3371. But my goal is to finish literally page 1. And so I think that's sort of like page 1 there. So this part here, and then there are some ninja stitches in there that I have to fill in. So it's not a huge ambition, but again, this is one, 18 count, Ada, it just takes a long time to count. And I think, you know, I literally, like, I can sometimes not even do a full strand before I'm counting too much to where it's comfortable. Hopefully when I start to get a little bit more of, you know, framework in there, it will move a little bit more quickly. But I want to take it slow. All right, the next one is Simple Little Big Love from Alessandra Adelaide Needleworks. So that's what it looks like. So you have these 2 lovebirds in the shape of a heart. And here's where I am. So this is a 32 count linen. I don't know what the color or the manufacturer is. I purchased this. The piece I did in the garden, which is the birdhouses. That was a lakeside linen. I originally wanted to use it for this, but that was a 28 count. It was a little bit tight. So I literally said, okay, I loved that color for this piece. So I matched. I went to DMC and I found the color, and during the pandemic, I sent an email to Brick City, and I was living overseas at the time, but I could get US mail. I sent an email to Brick City and I said, do you have any, 32 count that matches this DMC color, which I think was like 519, which is not a normal, whatever. And she said, well, I have one that was either like 518 or 520, whatever it was, like one number away. And I think this just looks lovely on it. And Brick City, they cut it to size and they serge, and she mailed it to me, and I was very happy. So I was able to start this for Mania. Hold please while I let the cat, who can push the door open, who doesn't seem to understand that she can actually push the door open. One moment. The cat is now in the room. For whatever reason, she doesn't understand. If she just slight push the door, she can actually open it. She has never figured that one out. She's pretty, but not the sharpest tool in the toolbox. All right. So that was Simple Little Big Love. All right. And the next one I have is another Lindy Stitches. And this is Stars Bright. And so this is 32 counts, Picture This Plus Mint. It's my sad story, where was one of the first pieces I started on linen, and I totally miscounted and was trying to fudge it. And you can't do that with the granny squares. Like, everything was starting to look wonky. So I had to frog a lot. And this is where I like challenge groups, because usually challenge groups are about getting progress in your stitching. But every now and then they say, let's do a prompt where you have to frog. And I'm grateful, because that gives me an excuse for a piece that's been in timeout to pull it back out and frog and move forward. And that's what I've done with this piece. So I had to basically frog. I had a lot of white done. I had this full block done. And basically, like, my mistake was somewhere in here. And I was just trying to fudge it, and it wasn't working. So I had to frog quite a bit, and I was sad and didn't want to do it. And now it's back to being happy. So my goal on this one is to get the top pages done. So it doesn't go that much further over here, and words and some of the bird. So that is my goal on Stars Bright. Next one is another paper pattern, Mystic Stitch. This is Tug of War, so it's a little bird. And I've been mired in background. So here's where I am. This is all solid black stitching, and this is all a combination of black and dark greens, like several shades of dark green and 939. It's not the most interesting part to work. So not something I pick up all the time. So my goal on this, again, is very modest. It's to finish page 2, which is about here. And then obviously this line here. So all of these ninja stitches here and then finish here. And then to come down, and this is a clothespin, to do the clothespin. So very modest goal. I sort of feel like when I get that done, I might move down to a little bit of the quilt and then go back up and do the bird. And then the way this pattern works, the stitches start to be a little bit lighter colored towards the top. So it gives it a little bit more than all that dark stuff there. Love the pattern or the picture. Mystic Stitch, if you're familiar with their paper patterns, they're also quite small. They're easier to read. It's not like a magazine piece, but they're not the, they're done stitching on a page. Unlike, let me show you, here's where I made all my mistakes here. All right, with my cards. Unlike the next one. So the next one is another paper pattern, but it's from Artisy. And I don't know, it's the large print, clearly, what I ended up with, because it's like the symbols, are like as big as my head. It's great. It's so easy to read. So this is Green Dancer, artwork by Edgar Degas. This one, again, it goes fairly quickly. This is relatively small for a full coverage, but because I'm working on 3 dancers and I do want to make a push to finish that one, this one, I'm not going to give it as much attention in 2023, simply because how many dancers does one need to work on? So here is where I am on that. So obviously this is the width of the pattern. This is about the bottom. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is about the bottom of the page. You can sort of tell. So my goal literally is to finish pages 4, 5, and 6. So some areas have a lot of white, but a lot of it is just ninja stitches hiding in there that I need to pull out. So a modest goal on this, but one that I think it's just to get it to a point where I feel like I'm 50% done, and then I can do a final push once I finish 3 dancers and feel like I need to, I danced when I was younger, not professionally or anything like that, but it was a hobby of mine when I was a kid. And my mom and I used to go to the ballet a lot when we lived in the New York City area. We go to the New York City Ballet together. So a lot of good memories of dancing. And so I've got Green Dancer, 3 Dancer, and Swan Lake. So we got 3 sets of ballerinas there. All right. So my next one is from Pain Free Crafts. This is Mother of Dragons, artwork by Alexandra Bach. So this image here. And again, it's a paper pattern, and there's a lot of dark background in that. And somehow I got really mired in the dark background, and so I need to change it up. So here is where I am now. So I've done pages 1, 2, and then 3. But I've said this before, what I'm going to do is I'm not even going to bother to finish page 3. My goal for the next year is to sort of come. So these are the dragon wings here, is to come down here and do the dragon head, because I really want to see some of that detail come to life. I think that will inspire me to work on this this piece more if I start to see a little bit more of the detail coming out. The chart is very easy to read. That's not the issue. It's just, when you pick a pattern with a lot of dark background and you're working in that dark background, it gets a little bit dull after a while. Next one is Evening Romance. So I think I'm now getting into where I was doing like a back. I think all my Mania starts that I had left over are done. I had more Mania starts, but I didn't. A lot of them are finishes. So this is Evening Romance, charted by Artisy, artwork by Mark Keithley. I think that's how you say it. And very confetti heavy, but a beautiful, beautiful piece. And again, a paper pattern, so it just really takes a long time. So basically, this is another page that sort of comes over to here, and then there is like one more page, but it's like a column. It's like 10, 12 stitches across. It's not even close to full page. So my goal on this one, is to get the top done. And I think once I do that, that will bring me to about a little bit more than a third of the chart done, because obviously the bottom row of pages are not full pages. Okay. Now, one that I'm very excited about. This is Portia of Veronica by Mirabilia. So this was my first fancy folk that I started. And I made the decision because I watched a few people. They're like, oh yeah, I do skin row number 1. I thought, well, that's what one does. So I did her skin 1 over 1. It had to go in timeout for a while until I got magnification, because this is a 32 count linen. And so it took me forever. I'm not sure in the future if I'm going to do skin 1 over 1. I'm going to see when I go to the Mirabilia retreat and try and get some good comparisons and really see how I feel. I mean, it looks amazing 1 over 1, but I'm not sure that the effort I put into it is worth the result that I get. But I have now finished all the skin. I've also finished the back stitch, and I found the back stitch because it wasn't, going from hole to hole or even middle of a stitch to another hole. It was like, if you really follow what the pattern did, you were doing long stitches and other things. So I did the best I could. But I made sure that obviously before I did all of that, I did all of the full crosses around it so that the back stitch would then go in between all of that. And I also think I can't figure out what it is, but I feel like there is a mistake somewhere up here. And that is very close to where the fold of the pattern is. So my inclination is, and obviously these holes are all like beads, is to sort of come here. I'm going to work on whatever piece of furniture she's leaning on, work on that so that, because it's the boring part. And then sort of go down and work on our dress and work back up here and see, how to fudge it. And I have a feeling the mistake may be somewhere in her arm and with all those small stitches. And that's why I'm just going to fudge it and try and work around it. Again, this is a poofy part of her dress. My pattern went flying. Yeah. It's just part of the dress. If it's a stitch off, I don't think anyone's going to notice it. Now, I have a very ambitious goal on this. I want to get this done before I go to the Mirabilia retreat. It is my oldest non-full coverage. So I'm going to do a version of either daily 30 or 25/7. My goal is not to work on this every day. But my goal is, if I have morning stitching time, a few days a week, to put in like 100 stitches or so. So rather than sort of making a focus piece all of the time, my goal is, a little bit at a time, do a little bit more at a time, but make sure that I'm consistently touching it. Okay. Now for the piece. You all know it. It is Cats in the Toy Box. This is Heaven and Earth Design, artwork by Leslie Ann Ivory. And my goal is to get this done in 2023. So I think it's a 39,000 stitches to go. So it is quite a chunk that I still need to do, but I think I did more than that this year. So I'm not worried about hitting that. And it's going to be hard to show this, but here is where I am. So it's out of the key snap, so you can see it in its full glory. I don't know what happened. I, at some point, got really panicked. I mean, there's tons of fabric on the top, so it's not like I started it. I think I must have bought a piece of pre-cut fabric, which is fine. But at some point, I was really worried about, am I going to hit the bottom? Not anywhere close. So this piece, because of that little basket there, I do think that I need to get a mat on this. Because otherwise, like if I just did a regular frame, you would see like a little bit of white here. I mean, I could do a frame that has a little bit of white all the way around, but I don't. So, and for me, this piece, it's been a labor of love. It is worth spending money on it to get it done the way I want it to get done. So let you see a little bit close up. So let's see if I have this handy. I keep meaning to show you guys this. So these are the first set of cats I had when I was an adult. That's Margarita. and that is Munchkin. They both, Margarita across the Rainbow Bridge more than a decade ago as Facebook likes to remind me, and Munchkin even before then. So they've been gone a long time, but they were really, really sweet kittens. They actually were sisters, litter mates. So even though their markings are different, their body shape was very similar. And so the reason why I was showing that is that gray kitty reminds me of Munchkin. Munchkin actually had a mane. There's no other way to say what she had. So that kitty has a little bit of one. Munchkin's was more pronounced. But you got the kitty, and then you got like a monkey there, and that green thing that I'm still not sure, and that little bunny down there, and more kitties. And they're right. Not really Raggedy Ann, but the doll. And the koala bear, and more kitties, and the creepy clown, and the big and little bears. So still have quite a bit to do, but I've hit the bottom. I've gotten to 3 of the 4 corners. And this is a stitch, again, I work on many evenings. I probably will let it sleep for a little bit until 2023, because I'm doing that retreat piece that I can't show you in the evenings right now, because I can't even, like with my games, I can't even post it. So it's a good piece to work on in the evening. Okay, and now my last piece, which is like a fan favorite. A lot of people love this one. It is my oldest one. I started it on Christmas Day in 2019. And this is Old World Map Large by Artisy. So that's what it looks like. And I'm going to say, honestly, I stalled on this a little bit. I have been like sort of putting a few stitches on it every day. And I think because it was so big, I didn't feel like I was getting the progress I wanted. And so I just decided to focus on other things. But it is out of the Q-Snap, so I can show the whole thing to you of what I've done. So I start this one, because I originally had started this in diagonal. I started in the upper right hand, and I realized parking was not for me. So I eventually worked in all those stitches. And so I've got basically that whole upper right corner scene. And then I've got the top of the globe there. This is the North Pole, which I know it's white. A lot of white stitches are done. And this is, so I said before, I can't really figure out what it is. Is that Asia? Is that Russia? I'm not entirely sure what that is. Or is that Canada? Struggling trying to figure out exactly which continent that is. I think originally I thought it was like northern Russia, but the way the shape is, I'm like, maybe that is Europe, because that definitely looks like, this here looks like the Scandinavian peninsula. I can't tell. But anyhow, that's, so quite a bit. You can't really tell because it's white, but there is still quite a bit I need to do in here. And obviously this banner thing goes all the way across. And I need, so this one, I really, because it is my oldest one, and I do love it. It needs to be brought out more in 2023 and get some real love. It is fairly large. It's, I think, about 250,000 stitches. So it's not, so my goal on this is I'm at 16.35, and my goal is to get to 25%. So that is quite a few stitches. That's over 10,000 stitches if I'm mathing it correctly right here. And my goal is, once I finish Cats in the Toy Box, which will probably be towards the end of 2023, is to make this one my evening stitch so that it can really get all the love that it needs. It's a wonderful piece, and it just is there. So if you have stuck around this long, this is according to my timing, 1:48. So feature length. I hope that you have enjoyed what you've seen. Feel free to drop any questions below. I'm not going to list every project that I have. But if you have any questions about anything you have seen, feel free to ask away. And I am going to take a break from Flosstube until probably the middle of January. I'm just got family coming in town, other things that I'm going to do, and I am going to the retreat in early January. So I probably will come back to you after that retreat and update you. And I have a lot of shout outs and haul, but obviously this was not the video to do it. This one's already quite long. So if you are here till the end, thank you so much for watching. I wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, whatever holiday that you celebrate. And if you choose not to celebrate any holiday, I wish you peace and love and joy. All right, happy stitching, everyone.